What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here live for my week number 11 NFL power rankings. This is post week 10, pre-week 11. We are ranking every single NFL team, as I always do here on the BLV every single Tuesday. I rank every NFL team from the worst at number 32 to the best at number 1. If that sounds good, guys, don't forget to spike that like button. Show your support by subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to spike the notification bell to be notified when the latest video or live stream drops. What's going on, everybody in the chat? Shout out to you guys. And just a shout out to the community in the Discord. If you want to join and get a little bit closer to the BLV community, a great way, a free way, absolutely free, is by joining the Discord. The link is in the description, guys. Check it out. It's a big chat room community where we discuss the NFL. I'm sure coming up we will be talking a lot about the World Cup. And you get all announcements for all of my content, including my TikToks and my YouTube videos, even Patreon content. So make sure to join that Discord community. Link in the description. I also put it at the top of the pinned comment section, at the live comment section. So make sure to check that out, guys. Spike the like button. Let's get rolling with these power rankings. This is week number 11. Let me know your power rankings as we go, and specifically your top 10 teams and where you would rank your favorite team. Let me know in the comment section below where you would rank your favorite team. I felt like this was incredibly difficult. I tweeted it out earlier in the day. I have no idea how to rank like half the NFL right now. Half of the NFL right now is an absolute disgrace. Absolutely terrible. Absolutely atrocious. So there's about 17 teams, 18 teams that I think are actually half decent. The rest of the NFL is pretty darn bad. So let's get to it, beginning with number 32. And at number 32, we still have the Houston Texans. We have rarely moved off of the Houston Texans as the worst team in the NFL. They once again just incapable of coming up with enough plays to win or make that game real interesting at the end versus the New York Giants. It felt like they had the ball for the whole third, fourth quarter in the red zone, but they were just not able to put that ball in the end zone to make that real interesting versus the New York Giants. The Giants are a team that find ways to win. The Texans are a team that just can't make enough plays to win games. The Texans still a few big special players away from being a true competitor, even in that bad AFC South. They are clearly, decisively, and consistently the worst team in the NFL. Does that mean they're an easy win? Not necessarily. They can play games close, but it just feels like even in those games they play close, they can't finish. They can't win. So at number 32, I've got the Houston Texans. At number 31, I have moved the Las Vegas Raiders all the way to number 31. I know it's a sad day, but the Las Vegas Raiders have basically become a team that almost looks like they're trying to lose at this point. They've put players on IR like Renfro and Waller, and I've discussed the level of talent on this football team. There is not a lot of talent on this team. There is bottom 10 talent on this roster right now, along with the quarterback in Derek Carr, who's overpaid right now and not playing to his salary. Derek Carr's not making enough plays to elevate the support staff around him. The running game has been solid but underwhelming as of late. The offensive line kind of leaky in their pass blocking but pretty solid in their run blocking. Defensively, they have to be one of the bottom 3 units in football. They can stop the run all right, but even last week we saw that Jonathan Taylor ran all over them. And in the passing game, they just aren't good. I mean, they're picking guys off the street. Sidney Jones at cornerback, he's playing right away. Linebacker, you got undrafted players nobody's ever heard of. Masterton playing. The defensive line has Max Crosby, and that's about it. Even Chandler Jones is not the same player. At number 31, the Raiders are just not that good right now. It's sad. At number 30, the Carolina Panthers. Now, I moved the Panthers a bit up. I was going to move them up more, but they lost their quarterback. PJ Walker has a high ankle sprain, I do believe, which, what's up with the high ankle sprains this year? Feels like everybody has a high ankle sprain this season. I feel like when we don't know what the injury is, we just say it's a high ankle sprain because that puts people out for 3 to 4 weeks. PJ Walker not being the quarterback and Baker Mayfield being the quarterback is a decisive loss. It is a negative. PJ Walker is the better player. Baker Mayfield has been horrific anytime he has played this season, and he has lowered the ability for this team to win games. Foreman's been a nice story at running back. DJ Moore's been hit and miss. The rest of their offense hit and miss. The offensive line's been pretty good, especially in the run game. But with Baker Mayfield there, this becomes one of the worst offenses in football. Defensively, they can play up front. Burns, Brown, Ioannidis, who's now injured, Shaq Thompson. They've got some ballers up front. They can make things interesting, and they did a very good job of slowing down the Atlanta Falcons' unique rushing attack last game. But I feel like that was more of a divisional game that they ended up winning at home. I'm not trying to take too much out of that game. And like I said, Baker Mayfield being the quarterback just makes this entire team and franchise worse than it is. At number 29, the Los Angeles Rams. Look, guys, I said that the Rams are terrible. Tell me one thing the Los Angeles Rams do well. Maybe stop the run. That's about it. I mean, when you look at their roster right now, Cooper Kupp injured. Who's at wide receiver? Who's playing at wide receiver for this football team right now? Van Jefferson? Ben Skoranek? I mean, come on. Come on. Tyler Higbee? I mean, these aren't exactly the greatest show on turf wide receivers here. Running back wise, not exactly Marshall Faulk. Offensive line, terrible. Awful. Horrendous. One of the worst in the NFL. Sean McCabo can't make the adjustments necessary for this football team. Has gotten so far away from what made him famous, it's ridiculous. And John Wolford is not even a third string quarterback in the NFL today. He's going to be playing for most of the season. Because Matthew Stafford, if I'm him, I'm sitting on the bench. I'm not coming off that bench and I'm considering retirement. I'm not taking any more hits for this terrible football team. Defensively, they keep themselves in games. I think somebody you've got to look at for head coaching possibilities and maybe another possible opportunity is Raheem Morris. I think he's done a really good job with his defense the last couple of years, especially with a lack of talent. Especially depth-wise, they have to plug and play a lot of different players. Aaron Donald isn't quite as dominant as he was. Aaron Donald's a guy that considered retirement after last year, and you see the decline in his play because of that. Mentally, he's not quite the same player in terms of just mentality. And we've seen Chris Jones and Simmons honestly outplay him at his position, which is the first time in 10 years, really. And then we look at the other front seven positions, they've actually gotten better play out of Bobby Wagner than I would have expected. Jalen Ramsey's still really good. Troy Hill's played well. But they don't have a lot on defense either. So this is just not a good team. At number 29, no chance they're making the playoffs. Stop it. At number 28, the New Orleans Saints. This team is terrible. The offensive line is okay. The defense is okay. But they're not as good as they used to be. They didn't live up to expectations. They do seem to give up too many key plays on third down. They don't get enough pressure consistently. They're not as good against the run as they used to be. Offensively, Andy Dalton's not making the plays. Michael Thomas still hurt. I mean, all they really have at receiver that's a difference maker is the rookie Chris Olave, and he's a rookie. So I look at this team. They just don't have the quarterback. Coaching isn't as good. Defense isn't as good. A lot of regression from this roster. At number 28, don't expect them to win many more games. At number 27, I got the Detroit Lions. Now, I understand you're going to see upcoming that I've got the Chicago Bears a spot ahead of the Lions. Spoiler alert. I felt like the Lions were kind of fortunate to win that game against the Bears. Obviously, they get a pick 6 in the game, which is skill, but also kind of luck. And they came back down in that game. That speaks to their passion, their fight, their drive. That speaks to Dan Campbell and what he does well, which is motivate his players and get them up to play hard. So I give them respect for that, especially in an environment that you would not expect Jared Goff to play well in. But quite frankly, their defense is still horrific. I mean, it's still the worst in the NFL. It might be better than the Raiders. I'm not sure. But the Lions are pretty bad on defense. They can't defend the zone read, basic college offense stuff. And the offense is not as good as it used to be. DeAndre Swift, bust in fantasy, man. Bust in fantasy. Sour to see that. Hopefully we can see Jamison Williams at the end of this season. That would be nice. But Amon-Ra St. Brown hasn't been the same player recently. TJ Hawkinson, they traded. It just feels like this team, I get it. They beat the Bears, divisional foe. Not a very good team either. I'm not really like high on them moving forward because their defense still sucks. And I'm just not sold on Jared Goff. So at number 27, the Lions. Nice that they got that win though. At number 26, the Chicago Bears. I think the difference between the Bears and the Lions for me overall, understanding that the Lions did beat the Bears in a close game, in Chicago. The difference is, I think if I'm a good team, I'd rather face Jared Goff than Justin Fields, because Fields is capable of running around and making some off-script plays that can make games interesting. There is the possibility that he throws it over your head to Cole Kmet or Darnell Mooney and he makes the game interesting. But their defense has taken a significant drop this year. Obviously, they traded Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn, but this defense has not been the same since that point. They have dropped off the face of the planet. They played terrible, and it feels like every fourth quarter when the game is close, Justin Fields can't come through with the passing plays necessary. But they definitely are interesting offensively to watch. They're intriguing to watch because they can run the football. They overpower you up front, and they can get some big plays in the passing game because of that. So at number 26, I've got the Bears. At number 25, I've got the Denver Broncos. Still one of the three best defenses in football, even post Bradley Chubb. Credit the defensive staff there. They've done a phenomenal job. And really, I think the biggest credit goes to the players, man. The players for continuing to play their asses off on defense, despite their offense being the worst offense in football by far. This offense sucks. They're terrible. They can't run the ball. They can't block. Russell Wilson sucks. Their receivers are overrated. Hackett and Wilson don't mesh from a system standpoint. I don't remember the last time this team scored over 24 points. I don't even know if they have all year. The Denver Broncos offense is terrible, but because of their defense, they keep them in every game they play. That's why I have them at number 25. At number 24, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have Mike Tomlin. They've got a solid coaching staff on defense, and they've got TJ Watt back. Minkah Fitzpatrick should be back soon, which is going to make them a dominant unit on defense that's scary to play. Offensively, they stink. Obviously, their offensive line isn't great. Their running game is irrelevant. Warren is better than Harris, by the way, at this point. Wide receivers, they're good, but Kenny Pickett can't really get them the ball consistently. I think they would honestly be better than Trubisky, but playing Trubisky at this point doesn't make a lot of sense given that Pickett was a first-round pick. You got to let him go through the rookie pains. So this is a team with a defense, a team that's coached well situationally, a team that will fight hard, a team with a good home field advantage, and a passionate fan base, but an offense that just doesn't move the ball. So at number 24, I've got the Steelers. At number 23, the Jacksonville Jags. The Jacksonville Jags are that talented team that can make a lot of plays, but they also make a lot of plays that lose them games. They miss field goals. They don't convert on fourth down. They take sacks. They turn the ball over. Defense gives up, blown coverages left and right. So this is a team that has a ton of talent, a team that can compete with the best teams on any given Sunday because they're young, because they've got a lot of athleticism on both sides. Trevor Lawrence can make some nice throws, but they can also equally throw a game away. We saw them that ability to easily cover. Their kicker misses 2 field goals. They go for an onside kick to start the game. They get it. They don't capitalize on it. Trevor Lawrence sacked 5 times in the game. So this team is probably the most frustrating team in the game because they could easily be a playoff team if they could piece together some of these situational football things, but they're not able to. So at number 23, I got Jacksonville. At number 22, I've got the Atlanta Falcons. This is the opposite of Jacksonville. Well-coached team that doesn't have next to any talent. They've got a pretty talented offense. They just have a limited quarterback. I think like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, as bad as he's been for fantasy purposes, you would think on other offenses, that he'd be pretty productive. I mean, imagine him on Tampa Bay, for example. The running backs are actually pretty talented, especially Patterson. The offensive line has played pretty darn well this year and plays well as a unit. They can run the ball well, and Arthur Smith scripts things well. But Marcus Mariota as a drop-back passer is a sight that I do not want to see again, especially in bad weather. I mean, Thursday Night Football was terrible. He was horrific. He was throwing the ball off his back foot into 3 people regularly. Now, defensively, they don't have any talent on that side of the ball. A.J. Terrell, Grady Jarrett. I mean, they've got a couple role players, Rashaan Evans, Lorenzo Carter. That's about it. They got nothing, bro. So, Atlanta just has a terrible defense from a talent standpoint, a bad quarterback, and a pretty good offensive scheme. At number 21, the Indianapolis Colts. By the way, on the Falcons, I don't see them making the playoffs the way that the BUCS have kind of come on here recently. At number 21, the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts, Matt Ryan gives them a chance. That Matt Ryan and their defense. Now, I've been really low on Matt Ryan, and I think that's been warranted because what does Matt Ryan do at this point of his career? Well, he doesn't make any explosive throws. He doesn't have an explosive arm. He can't really have any pop or power on his passes, so he's not threatening down the field. He takes way too many terrible sacks in field goal range. I mean, this guy is a legend for taking sacks in field goal range. Ask Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia and Chris Long and Trey Flowers. Then you've got him throwing picks and fumbling the ball on a regular, just every single week. But what he does is he's accurate with the ball. He does get the ball out sometimes fairly quickly, and he does accurately place the ball to his receivers, and he does seem to, with the traditional drop back passing game, he's a lot more organized and professional than Sam Ehlinger. Sam Ehlinger is terrible. I don't understand why they started him in the first place. He's horrible. So it's a big upgrade just to go from a bad starter, from a bad backup to a bad starter. Jonathan Taylor's back as well. They've got solid pieces. The offensive line did play better against the Raiders, but how much of that was the Raiders, we will see. Defensively, though, I've been saying it for weeks. They're a top 5, top 10 unit at the least. Gilmore's playing great. Defensive line is really nice, and they stop the run. Darius Leonard's been dealing with injuries all year, but they're still a good unit on defense, so they give them a chance. At number 20, the Cleveland Browns. The Browns can run the football. Run the football. Jacoby Brissett can make some throws every once in a while, but he is inconsistent. And Kevin Stefanski, I think, has a nice scheme, and they do a good job with the offensive line. But defensively, they are just so unorganized, so poorly coached. This is a defense for 3 years straight that has as much talent as most elite units. I mean, when you look at the Browns defense and you compare it to a unit like the Niners, maybe there's a bit more depth on the Niners. But when you look and compare these units, there's not much of a difference. It's a lot to do with coaching. I mean, Myles Garrett's there. Clowney's there. You got solid athletic linebackers, pretty good corners, solid safeties that have performed in other systems, but not in this one. The only true weakness for this defense is their interior defensive line. The coaching with Joe Woods has been so bad. They couldn't stop Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson last week, a team that couldn't run the ball all season. It was really terrible at number 20, but they do run the ball. They do possess the ball. They do play good offense, so they're capable of winning some shootouts, and they'll be better with Deshaun Watson. At number 19 is the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals, I think, are playing better right now. And honestly, this might be a hot take. I don't really care at this point. Kyler Murray has stolen money. He has robbed the bank of the Arizona Cardinals. Colt McCoy gives them just as good of a chance of winning games right now than Kyler Murray. Colt McCoy deserves some respect as a backup in this league. And I'm telling you guys right now, if Colt McCoy is starting a game, I'm likely to bet on the Cardinals. Because I think there is this idea, this concept, this notion that Kyler Murray is way better than Colt McCoy. But that's just not the case from what I see. It just isn't. The offensive line isn't bad. D-Hop's still a monster, despite my thoughts of him declining this year. Marquise Brown's going to come back at some point this year. That will help them. Obviously, Zach Ertz gone for, I think, the season, or at least long term. And James Conner back, that helped a little bit, but I think they've got a pretty good offense, just, no matter the quarterback. Defensively, they're well coached, and they do pressure well with a lot of different blitzes and stuff like that. I don't think they're a great team. I don't think they have a ton of talent, but they're kind of one of those average teams that can kind of make games interesting, especially against certain opponents. So at number 19, I've got the Cardinals. At number 18, I've got the Green Bay Packers. Packers rise up in my rankings after an impressive comeback victory over the Dallas Cowboys. And again, we've seen the formula for the Packers for how many weeks? When they run the football and ask Aaron Rodgers to be a secondary option in the offense, they can be productive on offense. And Christian Watson, don't underestimate what this guy was able to do against Dallas. This is one of the best secondaries, one of the best pass defenses in football. Christian Watson has 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards. And not just the stats. He's not going to be able to replicate 3 touchdowns on a regular basis, okay? The only other rookie for any team to do that against Dallas is Randy Moss on Thanksgiving. So that's not going to happen very often. But what he does give this offense, if he's healthy, is that speed element and that scariness to their passing game. So that's going to open up that running game. That's going to open up Aaron Jones underneath in the passing game, Alan Lazard in the slot. That's going to threaten defenses vertically so that they can attack horizontally and in the run game. And that's going to open up Aaron Rodgers' ability to be pinpoint and accurate underneath. Defensively, the Packers have been a little bit better recently. Their run defense still suspect to me. They still give up too many explosive run plays. But their secondary is still pretty good, and they do make plays in the back end. So the Packers' defense is fairly average, maybe a bit above average. Offense can possess the ball and can now, maybe with Watson, make some explosive plays and get themselves back into the playoff race at number 18. At number 17, I've got the Washington Commanders. Look, they did beat the Packers, so I know some of you are going to be upset the Packers are not above the Commanders. The Commanders beat the Packers not that long ago. The Commanders just beat the Eagles. The Commanders are underrated. They continue to be underrated. Their defensive line is playing their asses off. They're hard to run on. They can get pressure, especially with Chase Young coming back. And I think their secondary is playing above their ability. Especially Kendall Fuller is playing really, really well. In the offensive side of the ball, they've got this rhythm with this running game. They don't ever seem to get negative yards in the running game. They consistently move the ball. They consistently get little chunks in the run game. Taylor Heineken is making big plays when he needs to. And Terry McLaurin's uncoverable right now. Curtis Samuel's a nice number 2. And they've got some other receivers that can make some plays. So at number 17... I continue to see the Commanders being underrated and disrespected. At number 16, the New York Jets. I got this Jets right in the middle. Now they are, I think, 6-3 or something. I think their record's a bit better than they are. I just don't believe in their offense all that much. I just haven't seen it from Zach Wilson on a consistent basis. I see flashes of Zach Wilson in games, but I don't see enough consistency, and he turns the ball over too much for my liking. But defensively, they're elite. There's no doubt about it. They've suffered a lot of injuries on offense. They have suffered injuries on defense, but they overcome it on defense. Robert Saleh has this defense flying around, playing physical, playing fast, and that's going to give them a chance in all these games. But I ultimately look at them as an outside looking in type of team at the end of the year. I think they're going to obviously outdo their preseason expectations, but I don't think they're quite there offensively for me to rank them any higher than at number 16. I know some people, Jets fans especially, are going to be upset with that, but that's just personally how I feel about this team. Next, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers, who are a bit of the opposite of the Jets. I don't trust their defense, but I like their offense. I think the Chargers are going to get healthier, especially offensively. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams coming back soon, which is going to add an explosive element to their team that they're missing. Austin Eckler's been awesome. Herbert is going to have the opportunity in this second half to go off with his weapons back, and I think he can win them a lot of these games down the stretch versus subpar opponents. You know, teams like the Cardinals, the Raiders that they end up playing. They should come out on top there. Defensively, They're not very physical. They're not very big. They can get ran over, but they do play good in coverage. And I think we're going to see that against the Chiefs. I think they play good pass defense. They make things tough on an opposing offense. I think Khalil Mack's playing awesome. I really do. I think he's playing unbelievable. Asante Samuel Jr. is playing great too. I feel like the Chargers are going to give certain teams problems, and I think they could make the playoffs as like the 7 seed potentially, but I don't view them with a ton of upside because I think those physical football teams give them issues. So at number 15, the Chargers. At number 14, the New York Giants. The Giants are at 14 because they're another team that I think, just like the Jets, a lot like the Jets, I think their record is better than their talent or their team indicates. You know, they beat the Texans, but it wasn't super convincing. They don't really ever seem to run away in a game. They don't ever seem to dominate a team. Even like other, above average teams seem to dominate bad teams better than the Giants do. But the Giants are extremely well coached. I think the Giants threaten offensively with what Saquon can do as a runner, with what Daniel Jones can do as a runner. And Daniel Jones makes a couple key clutch throws every single game. Defensively, they're well schemed. They stop the run well. They've got a strong interior defensive line. Shout out to Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams playing their butts off. And there's some good players in their secondary too. So at number 14, I've got the Giants. I think they make the playoffs. I think they are a wild card team, but I don't expect much out of them down the stretch this year in terms of winning a playoff game. At number 13, the Seattle Seahawks. I also see the Seahawks as a wild card team this year. I think their offense is still pretty good. I think they ran into a tough matchup against Tampa Bay, a team that can stop the run with Akeem Hicks in there really, really well. And that gives them issues with Kenneth Walker not being able to get it going. That removes their balance. On top of that, they've got a defense that can blitz Geno Smith. That's kind of his weakness right now. You've got to be able to pressure him, especially up the middle. And DK Metcalf's an animal, though. Tyler Lockett makes a few plays every game that are miraculous. Noah Fant, Will Dissly, these guys make plays, and Kenneth Walker's a beast. The offensive line's above average, I think. So the offense is good, but it's just certain matchups that give them issues. Defensively, I don't think they're very good. Maybe I overrated their defense a little bit. I think that they're young. I think they're feisty. I think they're hungry, but they're just not extremely talented. Their pass rush isn't great unless they blitz. They are a creative unit, but I feel like good, above average, smart quarterbacks can dice them up like Brady did, and you can run on this team. So at number 13, Seattle. At number 12, the Tennessee Titans. The Titans just continue to win games in low-scoring, feisty fashion. The Tennessee Titans have one of my favorite defenses in football. I love how they play defense. I love how physical they are. I love how in your face they are. Mike Vrabel coaches this unit very, very well. They've got a strong defensive staff. Jim Schwartz, not a lot of people know that, is actually one of not the defensive coordinator, but he actually is one of the extra minds on this staff as well that doesn't get enough credit for this defense. And Jeffrey Simmons is an absolute elite player that doesn't get enough credit. Their secondary is really talented, and they can play man or zone coverage, and they do things really well. They pass off zones really well. They just confuse quarterbacks extremely well, and they are one of the best teams against the run, if not the best, when they're healthy. Offensively, they're not very good. I think they're below average, if not one of the worst offenses in football. But what they do have is Derrick Henry. They have Derrick Henry, and hopefully Tannehill can get healthy. And Nick Westbrook, this guy's making some plays down the field. It feels like he's their number one receiver now and has taken that spot. And if he can continue to make some downfield plays for this team, they can be dangerous. I like the Titans because they can play hard against just about anybody. They match up with just about anybody. They play tough, they play physical, and they're not going to back down. At number 12. At number 11, I've got the New England Patriots. I think the Patriots and the Titans are fairly similar, and I know this is crazy to say because the Patriots don't exactly have the greatest show on turf on offense, but I think they are a better offense than the Titans. I think they get a bit more out of their passing game, their drop back passing game, their short passing game with Mac Jones and these receivers like Jacoby Myers, and I think they're going to continue to develop that as the season goes on. Their run game is no slouch either. They've been dealing with some injuries on the offensive line. David Andrews coming back will be huge for them. Defensively, they're arguably the best pass defense in football right now. Matt Judon's arguably Defensive Player of the Year, leading the NFL in sacks. They've got some really good corners, some young, fast corners. What I really like about their secondary is how versatile they are, and I love how quick their corners are. I love Jonathan Jones, Jack Jones. They can really match those quick route-running wide receivers really well. They can play great man coverage. And I think their pass rush is a lot better than in years past with Wise and Judon and Uche, who's playing great. And Barmore hasn't been playing, but he'll come back. So this pass rush is really, really elite, and the offensive line can really run the ball. I think that they're going to be a challenge for a lot of teams down the stretch, and I do think they're going to make the playoffs. At number 10, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I've got the Bucs back in the top 10 after how they looked offensively against Seattle. Their defense, as long as it's healthy, is going to be a top 5, top 10 unit. And they've gotten back to really stopping the run with Akeem Hicks in there. Actually, according to Warren Sharp, he said that statistically, the Bucs are the best run defense in the NFL when Akeem Hicks plays, which is something to note. So note that in the future when you see that. But offensively, I like the recipe that they showed against Seattle, running the ball a bit. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of early down runs, when you're able to successfully run it, it does open up those passing play action plays concepts that can allow some downfield throws from Tom Brady, protect Tom Brady, make him feel comfortable, and allow him to hit and strike down the field. That's what the Bucs do best in this offense. So the Bucs may be back at number 10. At number 9, I've got the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow and the Bengals were on the bye. They're back this week against the Steelers. We'll see how they look without Jamar Chase. Defensively, I'm a little bit worried about them post-Awuzie injury in the secondary, but they're well coached, and I feel like they have a good game plan seemingly every week. Offensively, they're still explosive, but they're a little simple, and that's what I'm worried about. But I think they could... I mean, if you told me the Bengals went back to the Super Bowl, if everything goes right for them in this conference this year, I wouldn't be that shocked. I'd probably bet against it because it's hard to get to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, and you're likely to drop one of these playoff games. But I think they make the playoffs. I think they can play with anybody. I think they've got the confidence and the swagger that Joe Burrow brings to the table that's tough to play against. So I like the Bengals at number 9. They're not scared, that's for sure. At number 8, the Dallas Cowboys. They moved down in my rankings from about number 5 to number 8. I just think they've shown some liabilities and some susceptibilities on defense. If you can control the ball, run the ball, and keep this defense from really teeing off as a pass rushing unit, you can cause them to be off balance and you can score on this defense. I think their secondary is solid, but I do feel like they do give up a few big plays every game in the passing game, it feels like. Especially when they have to over and out, kind of expose themselves to that running game to try to stop it. That opens up some big plays for the passing game for the opposing team. On the other side of the ball, I'm just not that confident in how Dak in this passing game's playing. CeeDee Lamb played great against the Packers, but everybody else, I'm just not in love with how they're playing. From a run game perspective, they're good, and they should be even better when Zeke comes back, just adding that, 1-2 punch that they have with Tony Pollard. But at number 8, I got the Dallas Cowboys. I still believe they're a good team. I'm just not sold that they could have been. I thought they could have maybe been a great team. I just not sold that they're capable of that with the defense having such a big flaw the way that they do right now. At number 7, the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, they're a weird team because I feel like a team that has Devin Duvernay as their number 1 receiver is not a team that I would want to rank at number 7. But besides that, you look at this team and they're able to run the ball with their running backs now because it all starts with their offensive line. Their offensive line is kicking people's asses. They're running people over. They're mauling people. I love how the young rookie's playing. I love how Ronnie Stanley's protecting on the left blind side of Lamar Jackson, which has really opened up some of these passing plays down the field. Lamar Jackson's playing well, and he's protecting the ball better recently. If he can get back to his explosive self early in the year, his MVP form early in the first 4 weeks, I think this team could really go on a run because I think their defense is playing a lot better. Their pass rush is playing well. Justin Houston has gotten a second wind. Their secondary's shutting people down, and they're controlling the ball. They're controlling the game. They play great special teams. Justin Tucker doesn't miss any kicks. And at number 7, I like the way the Ravens are kind of getting better right now. At number 6, the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are at 6 because of their offense. The Dolphins' offense, if they can run the ball the way they did against the Browns, they're going to be almost impossible to stop. Tua isn't like doing anything extraordinary, but what he's doing is what he's asked to do, which is accurately feed these receivers and these playmakers. And Tyreek Hill is the engine, and Jalen Waddle is that secondary nightmare. And they've got guys like Mike Gesicki and guys like Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson. All these guys are contributing, man, and they're all playing well, and the offensive line is getting better, especially in the run game, as I stated, and McDaniel's continuing to find wrinkles to the offense each and every week. Defensively, they're not the greatest, but I felt like they did have a better performance last week, especially against the run. So at number 6, I put the Miami Dolphins there. I don't think they've lost a game with Tua. They haven't really played any great teams with Tua, but they haven't lost any games yet, so that's pretty good. At number 5, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings proven to be a top 5 team with their win over the Bills, although you could say is a little bit fluky, which I would agree. They did win the game, and they continue to find a way to win these close games. Justin Jefferson, unbelievable catch, unbelievable player. Do I think Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in the league? Yes, but Justin Jefferson's number 2. Dalvin Cook he's not as good, as consistently as he used to be, but I feel like he still can pop off some explosive runs, and he really got into prime form in that overtime where he was just chunk play after chunk play after chunk play, 80-yard touchdown on the ground. TJ Hawkinson contributing. Adam Thielen's not the same player he used to be, but contributing. KJ Osborne makes a couple plays here and there. But the biggest thing I was impressed with was, 1, the offensive line. Absolutely phenomenal performance against a good pass rush in the Bills on the road. Impressive. That's a huge difference for me with how they're playing. And Kirk Cousins, man. A lot of people would criticize Kirk Cousins, and he does make some bad plays, and he does make some bad throws and bad decisions, but Cousins can also make some big-time plays. And I don't think he gets enough credit for how many big-time throws he can make in these games. You look at that game against the Bills, how many perfect passes did he put on the numbers of these receivers? I think Kirk Cousins is playing good football. I don't care about the turnovers. It's the amount of big throws the guy is making that is just unbelievable to me right now. At number 4, the San Francisco 49ers, and I get it, the record isn't nearly as good as the Vikings, but if you're asking me, Mitch, who's playing tomorrow? The Niners and the Vikings are playing neutral site tomorrow. Who do you favor? Well, I'm going with the Niners. I'm sorry. If you disagree, that's fine, but I'm putting the Niners as favorites. Look, the Niners defense, not even healthy, and I understand they played a beat-up Justin Herbert offense, but no points in the second half for the Chargers last week. They outgained them by over 100 yards. If they score one more touchdown, that game looks to be a blowout. Looked closer than it was. They can run the ball. Jimmy's playing well. He's not throwing the ball to the other team. He's actually making more plays than he has in recent history. Their offensive line continues to get better under Shanahan. They've got a dynamic 1-2 punch with McCaffrey and Mitchell. Ayuk, Debo, Kittle. How do you cover those guys? And then defensively, they're just going to get better. When they add Armstead and Kinlaw, that duo is really freaking good. I don't think people understand how good those guys are, especially when it comes to they just completely dominate the running game to the point where you can't even run the ball. So it forces you into uncomfortable spots. So at number 4, the San Francisco 49ers. At number 3, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are my number 3 after losing to the Vikings. It was kind of an unlucky, unfortunate loss, but what I'm concerned about with the Bills is a few things here. I think they're a lot more human than everybody wants to give them credit for. Everybody is saying they're still the best team in the league. I don't agree. The Buffalo Bills, man, they are turning the ball over, especially Josh Allen, way too often, way too much, and he doesn't need to make these plays. I'd rather him just throw the ball away. I'd rather him just take a sack every once in a while and learn to play and play another day, right? And then they don't have a running game really consistently. They don't trust it consistently. I think their weapons, other than Diggs, are kind of overrated, to be honest with you. When you look at Isaiah McKenzie, hasn't performed. They don't have that Cole Beasley guy like they did a couple years ago. Cole Beasley was a really nice number 2 receiver a couple of years ago. They don't have that guy. Gabe Davis, he puts up some numbers sometimes, but he's super inconsistent. I think this team really needs Odell. I think if they want to win the Super Bowl, they need Odell. That's just my opinion. Defensively, they still have a weakness against the run, and I understand their pass defense would be better with Tre'Davious White. That's the hope, but we haven't seen him healthy all year long, so they need to play better on both sides, and they need to play better situationally in close games. Sean McDermott just, I don't know what they just mess things up in these moments. So I'm just a lot lower on the Bills right now with how they're playing. They're playing inconsistent. I don't love it. At number 2, I got the Chiefs. I still have the Chiefs at 2. Just because I don't have short-term memory loss like the rest of NFL fans out there. Like, I witnessed this team almost lose to Malik Willis, who, quite frankly, is not an NFL backup at this point. So I have to still look at that and say that's concerning. And this week, I thought the game looked a little bit more comfortable than what it should have been against Jacksonville. But hey, they won those games, so you give them credit for that. But I don't trust this defense. Like, I like the offense of the Chiefs. I like their passing game. I love what they're going to do with Tony here. And if they can get Tony, Juju healthy, they're going to be real interesting on offense, real tough to stop. Pacheco is that lead back. He's got to be that lead back. I love what they can do with him. He's so much better than Clyde. I don't understand why it took so long. But defensively, I just don't trust them. Like, I love Chris Jones. I don't trust the run defense. I don't trust the pass defense. I just don't. I like Spags, but I don't see them being able to go toe-to-toe with better offenses in this league. So at number 2, I've got the Chiefs. And at number 1, I've got the Philadelphia Eagles still, even though they lost to Washington. And I'll say this about the Eagles. I still got them at number 1, but I don't think they were like a couple calls away from winning that game. You know, as much as people want to say like the refs blew that game, they didn't. Washington kind of dominated the Eagles in that game. Like, if I was an Eagles fan, I'd be concerned about how much time of possession I allowed to the Washington Commanders and how much time of possession I allowed to the Houston Texans. 2 below average teams in this league. So I'm still going to put them in number 1 because what I really love about the Eagles right now is how explosive their offense is. I mean, despite barely having the ball, they still made that a close game. So you got to give them credit for that. And if not for a couple turnovers, they still made it a game where they could have won, right? And then defensively, I do think they've got more talent than a team like Kansas City. I have seen them play elite this year against certain teams, and I think Jordan Davis has been a significant loss for them. Jordan Davis, a real baller. I loved him coming out of the draft. He makes a difference up there in run defense. So at number 1, I've got the Eagles. I think if they could get a little bit healthier with Jordan Davis coming back, and then offensively, yeah, they lost Dallas Goedert. That's going to hurt. Maybe Devontae Smith takes on more a little bit. But the Eagles, I got to give them credit for only losing 1 game so far this year. I've got to give them that credit. And I feel like they've still been the most consistent team in the league. Because even a team like the Chiefs, you know, they lost to the Colts. Even recently, they almost lost to the Titans. And I feel like it's tough. You know, you could pick the Chiefs or the Eagles, and I wouldn't be mad at you necessarily. But this is a tough league to rank right now. I don't think any team in the NFL is decisively the best. I don't think any team has separated themselves. I don't think there's a clear Super Bowl champion. I think it's pretty close, okay? But that's just the way that I see it. And I could see, like, a bunch of these teams winning the Super Bowl. Like, I could see the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. I could see the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. I could see the Bills winning the Super Bowl. I could see the Niners winning the Super Bowl. You know, I rank the Vikings and Dolphins a bit higher than teams like the Ravens and the BUCS, but I feel like the Vikings and Dolphins are teams that I feel like could win 2 playoff games, but maybe not the Super Bowl. I could see the Bengals maybe going to the Super Bowl again. I could see the BUCS again winning the Super Bowl because they have Tom Brady. I just can't deny that. But there's some teams like the Cowboys could win 2 playoff games. I wouldn't be that surprised. The Vikings could win 3 playoff games. The Vikings could get to the Super Bowl. Maybe they don't win it, but I could see them getting there. So there's a lot of different teams that I look at and I say, hey, this team could do it. So that's how I feel about those power rankings. And thank you guys for watching. Gronk, spike the like button if you haven't. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Let's just say hello real quick for the people that were here live. Tessa, thanks for joining. Big Al, thanks for joining. Jeremy, appreciate it. Anthony, appreciate it. Lofe, appreciate it. Rick, appreciate it. Thomas, who else we got in here? Quest, thanks for joining, man. Aaron Butler, thank you. Brandon Mitchell, thank you. Asthma, thank you. M. Baller, thank you. Caesar, of course. Nick, thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Jake, Jordan, thank you guys for tuning in. Niners, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in. And we will see you soon. Tomorrow we've got picks, and I'm trying to get a guest to come on tomorrow. So that should be pretty fun if I can pull that off. But thank you guys for watching. Growing Spike that like button. And if you didn't get a question answered live, let me know in the comment section below. Comment a question. Comment your thoughts on your team in the comment section below, and I'll definitely reply to you there. Thanks for watching. Peace.